Hello, friends, and welcome to another podcast, Nourishing Time with Salima, an evolving space dedicated to self inquiry, prompts, and practices to be well, mean well, and live well in the age of technology. In today's episode, I'll be talking about protecting our true nature in a techno world. And this forms part three of a three-part series, a trilogy that I've written on living mindfully with technology. So if you haven't read those posts, then they are in the archive. So you're welcome to have a look at those. So, welcome. Distractions, algorithms, vrittis, and overwhelms of the mind. In today's podcast and post, I'll also be doing a reading and we'll chant together. My hope for this piece is simply to give you some insights and ideas to better understand and explore your true nature. The vrittis, the disturbances and distractions of the mind in brackets, and the digital vrittis, and the role that technology plays in this equation, providing you with various teachings and practices to explore how to understand your true nature better and how to find harmony in this technological world of ours. My ongoing love-hate relationship with technology, which I've spoken about before, that information, has really been tested these past few weeks. On one hand, it affords me an increased opportunity to network and learn. But on the other side of the coin, it can often create a sense of overwhelm and distraction. So why are we so affected by technology? Maybe some answers can be found by returning back to some of the Eastern philosophical teachings. In most of these lineages, it's often referenced that we're neither the mind or body, although we have both. Leading us to the question, so what are we? Many believe that we are purely vessels or containers in this world / reality, experience and absorbing wisdom along this life's path, if we choose. However, in order to be able to do that to the full, one must have a somewhat clear and uncluttered mind. So, what can we do to cultivate an uncluttered mind? Well, from first-hand experience, I would definitely recommend to start by simplifying your day-to-day activities and routines, and then strengthening your presence from various practices such as chanting, movement, and various forms of mindfulness, breathing exercises, and meditation can all help to reduce and soothe an agitated, upset, and flustered mind. One of the first chants I ever learned, which is the chant that we will be chanting at the end, as we come to the end of this podcast, was when I was training with Jivamukti Yoga in New York and London. It was a sutra taken from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, chapter 1, verse 2. Here he recommends that one way of managing this aspect of our mind when in full-blown overwhelm and being in this state of distraction is simply to practice yoga in brackets and / or meditation close brackets, helping cultivate some relief and space to settle in to ourself / not selves star. I'm going to talk about not self shortly, but we'll just focus on the self for the time being. Yogash chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is this cessation of the fluctuations or whirlings of the mind. To break it down in simple English, although really, as I found when I was learning Sanskrit many years ago, there is no really direct translation from Sanskrit to English, but here we'll do the best that we can. Yogas or yoga means, as you probably will know, is to yoke, to join, to unite. Chitta is the mind, is the consciousness. And vritti is the modifications, the fluctuations, in other words, the mental chitter chatter that goes on from moment to moment as we move through our day. And nirodha is this ability to train our mind. It's this controlling, quietening down. So it's really our ability to become more aware of what we're thinking, and also to lean into these practices that can give us this sense of self-training. Focusing on one thought slash thing, in brackets, as opposed to many at the same time, close brackets, cultivates a richer awareness and perspective. Really, it helps anchor us into the present. In brackets, multitasking relates to something different, and there is a time and a place for that, explanation mark, close brackets. But we're not talking about multitasking today. We're getting back to anchoring us into the present. There are many translations of this verse from many different schools and lineages, including the restraint of the modifications of the mind stuff is yoga by Swami Sachinanda, and that's featured in the Jivamukti chant book. Although probably one of my favourites and a less known one is from Swami Janeshwara Bharat. Yoga is the control, in brackets, nirodha, regulation, channeling, mastery, integration, coordination, stilling, quietening, setting aside, close brackets, of the modifications, in brackets, gross and subtle thought patterns, close brackets, of the mind field. If we look back into the psychology and the philosophy of yoga, the mind is believed to have 4 functions. Manas comes from the Greek word and is the aspect, actually, well, manas has its roots in Greek, but we'll stick with the Sanskrit, but do look it up, feel free to do that. But manas relates to the aspect of the mind that records the external stimuli that we are exposed to moment to moment. Buddhi is sometimes called or referred to a higher mind, and that discriminates between and classifies these incoming impressions. Ahamkara is the ego mind, which filters everything through the lens of, in brackets, I/me/mine. So the total sum of these 3 creates the chitta, or the mind stuff, which is a vast warehouse of conscious and subconscious impressions. Vrittis are often translated and compared to thought waves. But vritti also means to revolve, to turn around, to spin in Sanskrit. And for those of you that practice yoga, or maybe if you're just starting, you'll hear a lot of vrita in the names of yoga poses. So it means revolved, in other words. Interestingly, I relate this spinning to perhaps a creation of certain patterns, though, that contribute to reliving the same cycles. And that is referred to, in brackets, in yoga as samskara, close brackets. The feelings, emotions, and habits that are not always positive, in brackets, close brackets. While it's true, of course, that we experience thousands of thoughts as we move through our day, Patanjali gives us a further roadmap in how to understand, navigate, and manage these thoughts by putting them or categorizing them into 5 types. These are: number 1, correct perception, something we know based on fact or observation. 2, delusion, misperceptions that lead to false conclusions. 3. Imagination, fanciful or very vague impressions. 4. Deep sleep, the absence of conscious thought. And 5. Memory, recalling past thoughts or events. But there are vrittis of a different kind, and these are digital ones. They are the unseen culprits at play in the background of our day-to-day living and activities. They are the technology themselves and the algorithms. Think of technology as a self in its own right, and the vrittis as the algorithms that drive it, just like our vrittis drive us. Algorithms also do the same as us humans. We get distracted, we get disrupted, and those aspects, this distraction and disruption to our thought waves, can often lead to addiction and overwhelm. Therefore, and I've spoken about this many times and I've written a few pieces on it, having regular time away from the technology itself can help quieten any repetitive, negative, and overwhelmed impressions that we may encounter or we have encountered. So, some of these digital vrittis include stress, anxiety, dissatisfaction, distraction, stuckness, and this sense of comparison, this constant comparison, comparing ourselves to what we see, what others have. And this is not good for us, basically. It's a very unhealthy balance of technology overload and not rooted in the present. For example, did you know the following? On a daily basis, what do you think is the average amount of hours that UK adults spend on screens? Any ideas? 8 hours and 41 minutes. What's the percentage of people checking Facebook every 10 minutes, do you think? 34%. What percentage of UK children say that their parents spend way too much time on their mobile devices? 69%. What's the percentage of UK adults admitting they spend too much time online? 43%. In the written post, I've included a slide that I took from a presentation I gave pre-COVID, and it makes for very interesting reading. And it talks about digital exposure and the areas of the brain affected. Again, I touched upon this in one of my posts a few weeks ago, but this is an expansion of that. So please feel free to head over and have a look at that. So let's leave the digital techno aspect. Let's put that for a moment, let's put it to one side. And now let's talk about returning more to these ancient teachings. So lately I found myself returning more to what I was teaching and what I was learning over 2 decades ago. A lot more frequently, actually, for, I don't know, I guess it's direction. And along with this natural curiosity that I have on the Zen teachings of self and not self, which is what I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. And this has really allowed me to, it's really allowed a different perspective to emerge for me in this exploration of myself. I found a wonderful, easy to understand and free podcast, which if you head over to the post on Substack, You can click on that. That's the Zen Studies podcast by a Soto Zen priest, Domyo Burke. Her Buddhist teachings on the emptiness of self have really been illuminating and have deeply resonated with what I'm currently experiencing. So I want to share with you a brief but potent part of her teachings below in relation to the topic or the subject, not self. And I'm really enjoying learning more on this fascinating ancient philosophy and wisdom. And this is including some of this discussion from the Mahayana, where the true nature of self being empty is discussed in this text. And so this is the reading I want to share with you. The Buddha didn't actually teach the self is empty, or as some people put it, the self doesn't exist. In fact, he wholeheartedly discouraged any speculation whatsoever about the true nature of self. What he taught was anatta, or not self. That is a practice of recognizing each and every aspect of our experience and everything we encounter as not self. This is an absolutely pragmatic teaching. The Buddha observed that the process of I, me, and my making led to dukkha, unhappiness, stress, or suffering. To refrain from that activity led to relief from dukkha. That will allow us to be in a state of sukha, which is joy and happiness. But this is not just about giving up attachment to possessions or pleasure over power. This is also about disidentifying with the 5 fundamental elements that make up a human being: our body, sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and volition and consciousness. Today, we are going to finish off this time together with a chant of this sutra. So, take a comfortable, steady, stable seat. You can sit on a chair, but just make sure that your back is upright and your feet are firmly on the floor. If you're going to sit on the floor or on a meditation cushion, that's fine. Take a seat of your choosing, one where you will not get distracted and uncomfortable. We're only going to be here for a short period. And then I'll ask you to place your hands in a comfortable, resonant position. So you might want to have your palms down for calm if you feel slightly agitated. If your vessel is in a state of receiving, you wish to receive wisdom, then place your palms up and take Jnana Mudra, thumb and index finger. So I'm going to chant it a few times and then we will sit afterwards just for a few moments and see what arises. Observe your responses and then reserve the emptiness that comes after. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga's chitta vritti vritti nirodha yogaschitta vritti nirodha. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And if you have your eyes closed, slowly allow the eyelids to flutter open. And if you had your eyes open and fixed on a point in front of the floor, about a foot in front of you, alleviate yourself from that position with your eyes. Let your eyes move around the room and take in your environment. And just allowing whatever benefits that you receive from that very short practice, just allowing those benefits to permeate your being, and maybe sending any benefits that you derive from this practice up to another, maybe someone that is really struggling at the moment. And the beautiful thing with Jivamukti is that we always used to set an intention for the practice, and that was to always give up any benefits that you may receive from a physical practice, a chant, up to all beings, so that we can all live liberated and free. And Jiva Mukta means, a Jiva Mukti is this liberation from suffering. A Jiva Mukta is somebody that lives liberated, not bound, but free. So I hope you found that helpful. I hope you enjoyed the chant. Feel free to practice that. And if you want some more information, then if you're listening to this on the podcast, head over and share any comments you may have, or if you feel like you wish to share it with somebody that may benefit from it, then please feel free. Until next time, my friends, just take a moment to thank you for listening, sharing, and liking, and I will see you soon.